I never imagined my wedding day, the day that was supposed to be the happiest of my life, would end up like this. And the worst part, my own family turned against me. For some background, my name's Olivia, and my stepsister Rachel has always been the favorite. My dad remarried when I was 10, and ever since Rachel and her mom came into our lives, I became an afterthought. Rachel got everything she wanted, whether it was my toys when we were kids or my parents' attention as adults. So when I got engaged to my fiancé Ethan, I naively thought that maybe, just maybe, Rachel would actually be happy for me. Boy, was I wrong. It all began with small things. Rachel kept making snide remarks about my ring, saying Ethan could have done better. She laughed at my dress, calling it too plain. But I tried to ignore it. Not worth the fight, huh? Then she dropped the news about getting engaged to some guy she'd only known for 4 months. And her wedding date, the exact same day as mine. First I thought she was kidding. Rachel, you know that's my wedding date, right? He just smirked. Yeah, but I figured one of us should throw a wedding worth showing up to. I glanced at my dad and stepmom, waiting for them to stop this nonsense. But no way. They were grinning at her like she'd just solved world hunger. Well, sweetie, my dad said. You know, Rachel's always dreamed of a spring wedding. Almost choked. I booked my venue more than a year ago. You can't just. Then my stepmom jumped in. I think you should cut her some slack, Olivia. You're always competing with Rachel. Maybe it's time you let her have this one. I was stunned. Ethan, God love him, was furious, but I just walked off. I wasn't about to let her get under my skin. Then the real sabotage started. A week before my wedding, my venue called me. They said sorry and told me there was a double booking. I didn't get it until they brought up Rachel's name. She did what? I whispered. She reserved the venue under her name. And since she paid everything yesterday, we just figured. I hung up and rushed to my dad's place, totally furious. You allowed her to take my venue. Rachel was smirking on the couch. Liv, you really should have paid the full amount sooner. I looked at my dad. Did you know about this? He let out a sigh. Rachel offered to pay extra, and the place needed the cash. I couldn't believe my ears. Wait, you actually paid for it? No way. I walked out before I lost it. I'd figure something out, even if I had to get married in my own backyard. But Rachel wasn't finished. The night before my wedding, I stayed at a hotel. When I came back to my place the next morning to grab my dress, my heart sank. The bag was lying on the floor, the zipper torn open, and my dress. It had been cut up so badly that I barely remember moving for the next few minutes. I only knew one thing. Rachel did this. Then my phone rang. It was my dad. Sweetie, Rachel told us everything. You gotta stop holding on to this anger. Everything went red. You think I did this? He let out a sigh. Well, she claimed you were acting up, and you've always had a short fuse. That did it. Right then I knew my family picked her over me. I was finished. I dried my eyes, stood tall, and did something nobody expected. And when they spotted me on the news the following day, they rushed to my place. Sucks for them. I'd already moved on. I should have been falling apart, sobbing, screaming. But honestly, I just felt calm. Rachel thought she'd won. My dad and stepmom figured they could sweep this under the rug. Little did they know what was coming. I'd made some calls. There was no way I'd let Rachel wreck my wedding. I was gonna turn this whole mess into something they'd never forget. First up, I needed a new spot. Got lucky. One of Ethan's buddies owned this gorgeous private estate. When I told him what went down, he insisted we could use it for free. That took care of one problem. Next up was the dress situation. There was no way to fix what Rachel did, but I refused to let her see me lose it. So I phoned a fancy boutique downtown and shared my story. One of the staff gasped. Wait, you're that bride whose dress got ruined? I saw those pics online. That's crazy. Pictures. Right. Someone shared it in a wedding drama Facebook group. Things are blowing up. I didn't even think about that. But since my story was already going viral, why not take advantage? Within hours, a local designer offered to whip me up a dress overnight. She even texted me, "Let's make you look like royalty." On the house. At this point, I almost wanted to thank Rachel for being so awful. It was playing right into my hands. Things were about to get good. Rachel stole my wedding spot, but she had no idea what was coming. See, while she was distracted playing perfect bride, she didn't realize someone had leaked to the press about a bridezilla wrecking her own sister's big day. And you know who eats up drama like that? The news outlets. On her wedding morning, Rachel opened her eyes to her name blowing up everywhere. Bride trashes sister's wedding, steals venue, destroys dress. They ran pictures of my torn wedding dress, texts from friends exposing her, even shots of her bragging in chats about how I had it coming. By lunchtime, #WickedBride Rachel was everywhere, but the sweetest part, her dream location, my original venue, dumped her. Turns out, they hated being at the center of that viral scandal. She was so mad. I found out later she showed up in her dress, yelling at the staff. They warned her to leave before calling security. Her guests, watching the drama go down live, started dipping out. Meanwhile, I was having my dream wedding. The venue was gorgeous, my new dress beat the original, and everyone who truly cared about me showed up. Best part. A big influencer shared my story, and some local celebs even came to back me up. So when my dad and stepmom came rushing to my door, freaking out, I totally knew why. Rachel was pleading with them to clean up her mess. Their perfect little princess had failed, and suddenly they needed my help. Too bad for them. I opened the door, standing there in my gorgeous gown, glowing with joy, and I just smiled. "Sorry," I said sweetly. "Don't think I know you." Then I slammed the door in their faces. Felt so satisfying. The look of total shock on my dad's face. Priceless. For years they treated me like some outsider in my own family. Now they want to act like I'm the bad guy for not cleaning up Rachel's mess. No way. Ethan, my amazing real family, wrapped me in a hug as I came back inside. "How's it feel?" he asked with a smirk. I admit, like justice. But hey, read this. It wasn't even close to over. In the following days, Rachel's life fell apart. First, her fiancé, remember that guy? Well, turns out he wasn't exactly happy to learn his future wife was going viral for being a crazy vindictive bitch. He broke up with her. Via text. So from what I heard, like through mutual friends who were dying to spill the tea, he basically wrote something like, "I don't even recognize you anymore. I'm honestly embarrassed to know you. Hope all that attention was worth it." Rachel completely freaked out. She kept calling, texting, even showed up at his workplace, but he totally ghosted her. Then there was the whole job drama. So Rachel did event planning, weddings and stuff. She'd been hyping herself up for years about starting her own business, claiming she'd be the next big thing in luxury wedding planning. Well, surprise, surprise. Her boss didn't just fire her for acting unprofessional. Her reputation was ruined in the industry. Nobody would work with the woman who wrecked her own sister's wedding. Venues banned her. Clients cancelled. She turned into that name in wedding circles, meaning nothing but trouble and messes. How ironic. Seriously. Now my parents are trying to fix things. You'd think my dad and stepmom would finally get it, huh? Admit they'd bet on the wrong person. If anything, they went even harder just a week after the wedding. I got this super dramatic email from my dad. "Olivia, we deserve an explanation. How you acted at your wedding was completely out of line. You embarrassed your sister, and now she's having a really hard time. Haven't you proven your point enough?" Man. Wow. This was priceless. I took a deep breath and typed back. "Dad, where did you go wrong? It all started when you let Rachel walk all over me for years. When you watched her steal my venue, ruin my dress, and did nothing about it. You don't get to act like the victim now. Look, if you want to talk, you should start by saying sorry. Until then, I've got nothing to say to you." Then I hit send. The response. Complete silence. It took months for my dad to finally reach out again. And by that point, well, things had changed in ways nobody expected. A few months went by, and my life couldn't have been better. Ethan and I were settled in our new place, surrounded by folks who truly loved and had my back. Work was going amazing. I kept getting messages from strangers who'd followed my story online, rooting for me. Rachel, meanwhile, was totally crashing. After her fiancé left her, she played the victim, claiming she was just trying to teach me a lesson and I'd overreacted. But nobody bought that story. Her ex completely cut her off, and when she tried dating again, let's just say Google didn't do her any favors. Her name was still tied to that wedding mess. If you looked her up, you'd find articles, social posts, and screenshots showing her true colors. She even tried starting a new wedding biz under a fake name, but it crashed when someone spotted her and called her out online. That's why Dad and stepmom weren't doing great either. With Rachel barely able to get work and still living with them, they ended up paying for everything. A relative mentioned my dad started whining about ungrateful daughters, and how I wrecked the family. Ironic, since they're the ones who ditched me. Then one night my phone buzzed. Unknown caller, but my gut said answer it. Hello. Beep. Then a voice I hadn't heard in ages. Olivia. It's your dad. I let the silence hang there, waiting for him to speak. He let out a sigh. I just guess we should talk. About all of it. I should have felt something. Maybe relief. Or anger. Sadness. But all I could feel was this weird sense of closure. Like I'd already let go. I didn't respond immediately. Instead, I looked over at Ethan, who was giving me that quiet, supportive look, then at our framed wedding photo on the wall. The one where I was genuinely happy, surrounded by people who really loved me. Then I took a deep breath and said, I don't think we should. And I hung up. The quiet after hanging up felt heavier than I'd imagined. I just sat there for a bit, phone still in my hand, my heartbeat surprisingly calm. It's not that I expected to feel guilty. I knew I owed my father nothing, but there was something heavy about realizing how permanent that moment felt. My whole life I'd been trying to earn his approval, trying to win the love and approval he gave Rachel so easily. And now, for the first time, I wasn't chasing after it. I wasn't waiting around for him to finally notice me, to finally pick me. I chose myself instead. Ethan sat beside me on the couch, his arm brushing against mine. He didn't push me, didn't ask what was said. He just let me sit quietly for a bit. Then, after taking a deep breath, I turned to him with a smile. Let's go grab some ice cream. That was all. No deep talks. No overthinking my dad's motives or Rachel's mess. Just a simple choice to do something for me, with the person who really mattered. That's when I knew I was finally over it. But my dad and Rachel, they weren't finished. Not quite. A week later, I got an email from my stepmom. I almost trashed it unread. But curiosity won out. I opened it, bracing for some guilt trip or demand to fix everything. Instead, it went on forever, all over the place, dripping with passive-aggressive vibes so strong I could practically hear her talking. Olivia, I don't get why you're doing this. Your father's heartbroken. Rachel's been through enough already, and it's heartless to bail on your family when we should be supporting each other. That wedding drama of yours already humiliated us, and you're making everything worse by giving us the silent treatment. We're still your family, no matter how hard you try to cut us out. I don't know if this is your way of getting back at us, but it's pretty immature. Just drop it already, okay? Come over for dinner next Sunday. Let's have a real conversation for once. I let out a bitter laugh, shaking my head as I finished reading. Now they want to talk. After all this time. After letting Rachel treat me like crap for years. After ditching me at my own wedding. After picking her side every single time. Now they suddenly want to pretend we're some perfect little family. And what's this nonsense about my wedding drama? Did they actually think I was the one who made a scene? I could totally picture that dinner. My dad sitting rigid at the table, my stepmom gripping her wine glass, Rachel pouting like a brat who still thought she was owed an apology. They wouldn't want to talk. They'd expect me to forgive them without taking any responsibility, but I wasn't having it. I showed the email to Ethan, who skimmed it and let out a sharp breath through his nose, shaking his head. They're ridiculous. Tell me about it, I mumbled. I don't even know why I bothered opening it. You gonna reply? I paused for a second, then grinned. Yeah, I think I will. I settled at my laptop and typed out my reply carefully. Stepmom, thanks for the invite, but I'm not interested in pretending everything's okay. You and Dad made your stance clear when you backed Rachel after she tried to wreck my wedding. I'm not the one who walked away from this family. You're the ones who left me behind. If you really want to talk honestly, you've got to start by owning up to what went down. Until that happens, I don't see why I should come to some dinner where I'll just get guilt-tripped and pressured into forgiving something nobody's even admitted to. I care. I pressed send and shut my laptop, feeling nothing but relief. No hesitation, no second thoughts. Just pure certainty that I'd finally drawn a line I wouldn't cross. Ethan pulled me close, kissing the top of my head. I'm proud of you, he whispered, and I smiled against his chest. I'm proud of myself too, but if I thought that was the end of it, I was dead wrong. Because 2 weeks later, Rachel pulled one final stunt, and this time she had nothing left to lose. I should have known Rachel wouldn't accept my silence as an answer. She never would. For 2 perfectly quiet weeks, I let myself hope that maybe, just maybe, my dad, stepmom, and Rachel had finally understood they'd have to sit in their own mess, talk crap about me in private, and eventually move on. I was wrong. It began with an Instagram DM from an old friend I hadn't spoken to in ages. Hey Olivia, just saw something crazy and figured you should know. Is Rachel seriously pretending your wedding was hers? My stomach dropped as I read the message. What the heck was she talking about? I clicked the link she sent me and instantly felt my blood run cold. It was Rachel's Instagram, a fresh account with a username slightly different from her usual one, probably because her real profile was still getting trashed. But the photos, those were all mine, my wedding venue, my decorations, my cake, my dress. She'd stolen the professional shots from my wedding, the ones Ethan and I shared online, and now she was acting like they were hers. I scrolled through the posts in disbelief, reading captions that made my jaw hit the floor. The most amazing day of my life, still can't get over how perfect everything turned out. So thankful for everyone who made it so special. Marrying the love of my life was everything I'd ever dreamed of and more. Thanks to everyone who had our backs. I felt sick to my stomach. She was completely insane. It wasn't just about her posting my wedding photos. She was trying to rewrite the whole story. To erase the huge mess she'd made publicly and act like she'd been the one at the altar, like she'd been the bride, like all the family and friends who ditched me had been cheering her on. And the worst part, people were totally buying it. There were tons of comments congratulating her. Everyone kept saying how gorgeous she looked, how classy the wedding was, how thrilled they were for her. I sped through the posts, my hands trembling. These weren't just random people. There were messages from our shared friends, from distant relatives, from folks who'd blown off my own wedding. White-hot rage flooded through me. She wasn't just copying my wedding. She was trying to twist the story so she'd seem like the star, like some flawless bride living her best life, while I was expected to fade away. Like hell. I drew a long breath, making myself focus. Losing my cool wouldn't solve anything. I had to be smart about this. So I snapped screenshots of everything. Every picture, every post, every comment. I made sure to keep proof that Rachel wasn't just lying but that others, people who picked her over me, were playing along. Then I figured it was time to pay her back. If Rachel wanted to live in some fantasy where she was the perfect bride, I'd make damn sure everyone saw the truth. I just needed to make it sting. I spent time perfecting my comeback. I wasn't just gonna expose Rachel, I was gonna destroy her. First, I forwarded the screenshots to a couple of true friends, folks who'd actually stuck by me, and told them to slowly spread the news. In just an hour, the news was spreading through our social circles like wildfire. So I decided to make my move. I opened Instagram and posted a carousel of pictures, my wedding photos. But instead of using Rachel's fake captions, I told the truth. Hey guys, picture my shock when I discovered my stepsister stole my wedding pics and acted like they were hers. For those who don't know, Rachel tried to ruin my wedding by secretly booking the same venue and even tearing my wedding dress. When my dad and stepmom sided with her, I ended up facing my wedding day alone. But you know what? I still had the most amazing day because I married the love of my life, surrounded by people who truly cared about me. Apparently, that wasn't enough for Rachel. Now she's faking that she got married that day. Using my own photos, my venue, even my wedding dress. I thought it was only right to set things straight. So to everyone who congratulated her, just remember she didn't get married. She wasn't even on the guest list. I tagged Rachel's fake profile, plus my dad and stepmom. Then I just relaxed and watched the drama unfold. Within minutes, my phone blew up with notifications. Folks were commenting, reposting, texting me with total shock and disgust. Some of the same people who'd congratulated Rachel were now desperately backtracking. But you know the best part. Rachel's fake wedding account vanished in under an hour. She wiped everything in a panic, probably hoping to avoid the embarrassment. Too bad. Screenshots of her lies were all over the place. People roasted her, called her out, dragged her name through the mud. Some mutual friends who'd believed her reached out, shocked, trying to say sorry for buying into her crap. Even distant relatives who'd skipped my real wedding suddenly blew up my phone pretending they'd always had my back. I left them on read. Rachel tried calling me. I let it go to voicemail. She blew up my texts with lame excuses. I was just trying to save my reputation. But I didn't reply. She didn't deserve an answer, and my dad. He finally called too. This time he sounded furious. How could you embarrass your sister like this? He said that. I smiled. You mean like how she embarrassed me? Like how you just stood there and let her wreck my wedding? This feels different. No, Dad. It really isn't. And you know what? I don't give a damn about your opinion anymore. Then I hung up. And that was the last conversation we ever had. Rachel's reputation never bounced back. She turned into the butt of every joke in our friend group, A warning about what happens when you go too far. Her social media basically vanished, and she quit coming to family gatherings, too embarrassed to face people. As for me, I kept living my life way happier than before. I had a husband who adored me, true friends who had my back, and that amazing feeling of knowing I got back everything she tried to take from me. And that was my real happy ending.